Mime is great for ministry because it overcomes several barriers. Unlike drama, in mime you do not rely on the spoken word to convey a message. Instead, you must rely on your actions or your body movement. Therefore, it overcomes the language barrier, and it makes it very easy to use overseas or in foreign countries where they do not speak English. Secondly, in mime you always rely on universal truths or emotions that everyone can relate to. This also helps to overcome cultural barriers. And the third thing that makes mime very easy and effective in evangelism is the fact that you don't have to carry a lot of props or stage things like you would in a drama. Instead, all you'll need is your makeup and your costume, and you're ready to perform, whether you're on a street corner, in a church, or in a large auditorium. In this video, we're going to show you how to apply your mime makeup, some basic mime techniques, and then we're going to show you several mimes that you can perform. First of all, we're going to start with makeup. I've asked my friend, Tessin Bozard, to show us how to put on a mime face. Before you start to apply your mime makeup, remember that you need to start with an absolutely clean face. Ladies, this means that you cannot have any eye makeup on and you need to remove all of your base. Men, this means that you need to have a cleanly shaven face. After you clean your face with soap and water, make sure you apply some type of astringent to tighten up the pores. And after you've done that, you'll want to apply some lotion to your face. This helps for your makeup to go on smoothly and evenly. The next thing you want to remember is to pull your hair back, like Tessin has done. Men, you might want to use some type of scarf or a ball cap turned backwards. Ladies, I recommend that you would pull your hair back into a braid or a ponytail, however you're going to wear your hair for the actual mime skit. Next, you'll notice that you'll want to wear old clothes so that you don't get your mime makeup on your outfit. If you have a mime outfit that has a high collar on it, you might want to have that on before you apply your makeup. Simply roll down your collar, place a button-down shirt over it. Then when you take your shirt off, you don't have to worry about getting your makeup on your costume or smearing the makeup you've already applied. The first thing you're going to do when you apply your makeup is draw a line around your face. This is the circle in which the white makeup will be placed. Start at your chin line and work your way up to your hairline. You're going to follow around your cheekbone, and when you get to the top, you should be about 1 inch below your hairline. This line does not have to be perfect because you're going to redo it later on. This is simply to show you where you're going to place your white makeup. After you've done that, you're ready to begin applying your white makeup. To get the best and most even coverage, you'll want to use a damp sponge and some white grease face paint. This paint can be bought at a magic novelty store, a clown store, or a theatrical store. The most important thing to remember when you're applying your white makeup is that you want it to have even coverage all over your face. You don't want some parts of your face to be a lighter color or blotchy. The best way to get even coverage is to use your sponge with small amounts and to blot it on your face. You might need to re-dampen your sponge throughout the time you're putting your makeup on. On your white face, make sure that you come in close around the nostril holes and around your eyes so that the flesh does not show through the white anywhere. After you've applied your white face makeup, you're ready to powder. To do this, you can use a powder sock. The one that we've made is just a nylon. You pour some baby powder or talcum powder into it and tie it in a knot. Then you can lightly pat it on your face and it will leave a residue of powder. You'll want to apply the powder all over your white face. The reason that we apply powder is so that the makeup does not come off easily and it cuts down the grease so there won't be a glare on your face. After you've applied your powder, you're ready to add the black lines to your face. You might need to re-outline the circle that you've drawn to begin with, but if it looks okay, you don't need to do that and you can proceed directly to the eyes. The first thing you'll want to do is line your eyes. Simply follow the bottom crease. While you're lining the bottom, remember to look up. And then the top of your eye. The next thing that you're going to do is add triangles to your eye. This identifies you with mime. The triangles should go in the middle, on the bottom part of your eye, down about 1 centimeter. First, you'll want to outline the triangle and then fill it in with black. Next, there are several variations that you can do. You can either add a triangle to the top part of your eye, starting after where your eyelid creases, or you can fill in eyebrows. Tessin is going to fill in her eyebrows. To do this, you simply outline where your natural eyebrow is and fill it in darker. The reason that we chose to fill in the eyebrow is because you can make your character just by how you place your eyebrows. If you wanted to, you could place your eyebrows higher up on your face, or you could slant them, starting down in the middle, going up on the outside to make her look like an evil character, or the opposite way to make her look like a worried character. After you've finished with your eyes, you're ready to outline your lips. You can either do your lips in black or a natural red color. I suggest that you use just a regular lipstick. However, you might feel more comfortable using a lipstick brush and a lipstick. The final thing that you may want to add to your face is a symbol of some sort. You might want to choose a Christian symbol that would associate you with the group, or some type of symbol that represents the character you're playing in your mime. Remember that whatever symbol you choose, you should keep it simple and small, and also make sure that your symbol is culturally acceptable. Some symbols may have a negative connotation in other cultures. Now we're ready to begin talking about mime techniques. We all know that mimes do not speak. Many people ask why they don't speak, and I'm going to explain that to you right now. The reason is that they have a white face, and the white face represents death. We know that dead people cannot communicate to us. That's why a mime does not speak. They must communicate through their actions. Now, I suggest that if your team is doing a mime, that they use the time that they're putting their white face on to reflect upon death. For a Christian, death has great meaning. We should die every day to our old self and our old sins so that we can become alive in Christ. So while you're applying your white face, think about the things in your life that you've had to die to and the Christ who is making you alive in Him. Because a mime doesn't speak, you must rely upon your actions, and your actions must stand for themselves. They must be able to stand alone. You don't want to have to finish a mime skit and then have to come up and verbally explain everything you did and the implications that it has. You should be able to come up and give an altar call if that's necessary, but you don't have to explain everything you've just done. Secondly, because you have to rely upon your movement to convey your meaning, make sure that your audience is able to see what you are doing. Think about this before you start. There are several reasons why they may not be able to see your actions. First of all, there might be physical barriers between them and you. For example, if you're in a large group or a large crowd has gathered together to see you and you're on the same plane as them, they may have someone larger in front of them and will not be able to see your actions. But it might be your fault. You may have blocked your skit in such a way that someone walks in front of you and cuts off the communication. Whatever you do, remember that people must be able to see your actions in order to understand them. You might want to raise your platform level so that you're above your audience, or slant your audience so that they can see everything you do. and you'll want to block in such a way that you'll never cut off the action. The second reason why they may not be able to see your actions is that your actions may not be large enough. If I were going to speak to an audience or give a drama, I might use an amplification system of some sort to amplify my voice so that everyone could hear it. Or I would learn to project my voice loudly. The same thing is true of your mime actions. You want to project your actions so that the whole audience can see you. Use large and wide gestures so that everyone can see what you are doing. Remember, this is your only way to communicate your message. Now, keeping these things in mind, I'm going to give you a few tips on mime technique. To begin with, you want to decide what you are trying to communicate. There are two things that we communicate: our emotion, and secondly, our plot, or the main purpose of our skit. Let's start with emotion. The most obvious way to communicate emotion is through facial expressions. You can use such expressions as happiness, sadness, frustration, or anger. The face can be used several ways to communicate emotions, but don't rely on your face solely. Add body gestures to it also. The movement of the body or the placement of different body parts or your posture can express emotions also. For example, boredom, frustration, or excitement. When you add all of these things together and your facial expressions, you should be able to communicate your emotion effectively. Now, this brings us to some other points in drama. First of all, you may have heard of the rule, never turn your back to the audience. Always let them see your face. The reason for this is because your face and your body is expressing the emotion. If you turn your back to the audience, they won't be able to see what you are doing. This leads to a second rule, always use your inside hand. If you use your outside hand to gesture, for example, picking up an object, you're turning your back to the audience in the process. But if you will use your inside hand to gesture or pick up an object, you open up your body and you keep your face toward the audience. Now we'll move on to plot. Because every time we have an action or an emotion, there must be a motivation for that action. People need to know why you picked up the object. Did you do it because someone told you not to and you are defying them? Did you do it to show that you can do it? Or were you just interested in it? You need to have some type of emotion behind your action, some motivation for it. This helps to identify the plot. It also helps the audience to know why things are happening on the stage. This will also lead to blocking. Blocking is the position or where you stand or how you move on the stage. You'll want to block your skits before you go out and do them. Think about cutting each other off and where most people can see your actions. The reason you want to do this beforehand is it will add for less confusion on the stage. If your actors are confused, then your audience is going to be confused also. And if you block ahead of time, you'll make sure that everyone can see your actions. When you're blocking, remember to have a motivation for your movement. Also remember, if there are two people, they should never face each other. If they're facing each other, the audience gets a profile view. Instead, you'll want to turn about 3/4 of the way. Then your visual lines will cross. This person will be able to look this direction and the other person this way. This allows your action to open up. Now you could talk to the person next to you as well as the entire audience, and they can see all of your action. The third thing to remember in the plot is to slow down the movement or the action so that they know the motivation and they can see the blocking, and hopefully they will get your message. Some other tips to remember have to do with pantomime. In mime, we use what's called pantomime. To pantomime simply means that you imagine objects that are not actually there, and you act like they are. You should act in such a way that your audience begins to believe that they are there. For example, you might pick up an object like a glass, or you might brush your teeth and act like you have a toothbrush in your hand. You might also have a table that you can rest your arms upon, or a door that you would have to open up. Whatever you do, remember these 3 things. To become better at pantomime, you need to practice all the time. Usually it's best if you practice in front of a mirror so that you can see what you're doing. You might also want to practice in front of another person and see that it looks real. Secondly, you'll want to watch other people and what they do. Look for the little things that they do. For example, when a lady sits down, she usually sweeps up her skirt. If you add those things to your actions, they'll make that look a lot more real. And the third thing to remember is called the plane or the wall. You have to remember where you set your imaginary object or where you walked through a door. It would be awful if you walked through a door to one side of the stage and then on your way back, you never opened up the door again. You need to remember where you placed the door and which way you open the door. This will make your actions seem more believable. Finally, I want to encourage you to be creative with your mimes. Think of things that you can do that will make them different from other people's. Let me give you some examples. You could add music to your mime that's original or is done right on the spot. You might even want to take a popular artist's song and use it to create a drama around the words, preferably a song that has a storyline to it. Another way you could be creative is by adding costuming. You don't want to completely do away with the mime look, so you might want to just add colors, such as red for the devil, white for Jesus Christ, or other colors that usually symbolize an emotion. Also, you can use the makeup to symbolize a different emotion, or maybe even a hat. This type of costuming is good, but remember, do not take away from your drama. You want to add to it. Another thing you might want to add is props to your actions. The same thing. You don't want to have so many props that it takes away from the action you are doing. Keep your props simple and compact so that they're easy to travel. The most important thing in mime is that you want your message to get across. This means you'll want to practice a lot and know exactly what you're doing. Make sure that it's polished. Make sure that everyone can see it. Make sure that you know your audience and their background so that you can adapt your mime to fit to their culture. If you follow all of these guidelines, you should be able to communicate your message. Right now, we're going to show you 4 different skits that you can learn by watching this tape, and hopefully that you can take out and minister to others. This skit is excellent to use with either 4 to 6 people. The only prop that you need is a chair and a sign marked on it, "Sin, do not touch." If you're working in a foreign country, you'll probably want to put this sign into their language. Now we're going to show you another skit involving a large group. This skit is made so that you can have either 2 people all the way up to 8 people. You can add as many parts as you need for the people in your group. If you don't want to use props like this, you can simply pantomime, or you could use labels that you hang on the hero. Each person would come up and hang their label on. The next person would hang their label on until it covers. It would start with the hero, and then again when it's Jesus Christ, it would end with the hero. This is a wonderful example of how you can adapt a skit to the culture that you're in. Maybe you would like to choose a certain hero, like Babe Ruth, and actually put it on him. You can adapt the different types of characters they turn him into and the words into their own language and their own heroes. The next skit we're going to show you involves only 3 people. This skit would be wonderful to do in a church setting or on the street. The idea of it is that we have to choose which master we will serve, either sin or God. Someone is going to rule our life. If we choose God, then we too have a choice. The next skit we're going to show you just involves two people. Mime is a powerful witnessing tool because it's the easiest to use cross-culturally. Because the mimes do not speak, there is no language barrier. And because they use universal themes, there is no cultural barrier. Keep in mind when you're performing your mime or you're practicing it that the purpose of your skit is to communicate the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now we're going to talk about clowning, because clowning and mime have several similarities. The most obvious is that they both use a white face, and for the same reasons, which means that neither of them speak. Also, that means that they have to use very exaggerated moves or pantomime to deliver their messages. But there are also some differences in clowning and mime. The first off that most people see is that clowns have lots of color. That's because clowns are usually humorous. Whereas a mime could portray a dramatic situation, clowning only relies on the humorous side of life. This is also why clowns are primarily used for children, And I would recommend, if you're going to do a skit and you could use either clowns or mime, that you would use clowns if you have a child-centered audience. The last difference between clowns and mimes is that clowns are actual characters, just like a drama character becomes a person. A mime could be anything from a chair to a dog to an old person or a young baby and do it all in the same script. But a clown is one person. They have their own personality, their own identity. They become a character. So to start your clowning experience, you need to develop your own clown character. That's what we're going to talk about now. A clown character, just as in drama, needs to begin with a character sketch. In this, you're going to decide on a name, an age, the physical appearance of your character, the personality of your character, and other outside things that would influence the way your character behaves, acts, or looks. Now that we know these things, you need to decide, first of all, on the age of your character. Is your clown going to be old, or is it going to be a young baby that's just a little bit too big for its size? You might even want to choose your own age, but it's usually best if you'll do something exaggerated because it's more humorous. After you decide on an age, think about the physical appearance of your clown. How tall is it going to be? It doesn't have to be your own height. You could be hunched over. You could walk on your knees. You could use stilts if you learned how to walk on them. But you could just imagine yourself to be a lot taller or a lot shorter than you are. There's other things to consider, such as where is the residence of your clown? And would that affect the way they talk, if your clown is going to talk, or the way they walk, the way they relate to other people, or act around them? After you've decided on all of these things, the last thing you want to do is come up with a name that symbolizes everything you have so far. It should be your character name, and every time you put on your face, you become that person. Now that you've developed a character for your clown, you want to develop its outward appearance. You do this by your costuming and your makeup. There are several possibilities for costuming. Old overalls, outfits that are mismatched or too big, too small, old pajamas, uniforms, or the classic, which would just be a big baggy outfit with a ruffled collar. There are basically 4 different types of clowns. The first is the classic clown. They use a simple white face with basic colors and small designs. They also wear a big baggy clown outfit with bright colors and a ruffled collar. They play up on children's things, such as games, fun, balloons, love. They bring out the child in all of us. The next type of clown is called the hobo clown. They usually wear big ties, long jackets, oversized pants. They play up on our emotion to want to help others. This clown is always getting into trouble, or things are always going wrong for him. So people feel for them, and they also find humor in it because they've usually been in those situations themselves. The third type of clown is the klutzy clown. It originated in Germany, and this clown falls all over the place, all the time. This clown can have several different types of outfits. It really doesn't matter. The main thing about this clown is that they don't use a white face so they can talk, and that they're always a klutz or clumsy. The last type of clown also doesn't use a white face. It's called a character clown. This clown can talk to people, and it becomes a character. Sometimes it's a well-known character, like Raggedy Ann or Andy, or Mickey Mouse, or maybe a superhero like Superman. But sometimes it's a character that you develop yourself, and this person comes alive between the eyes of children and adults alike. Now that we've already talked about costuming, we're ready to move on to the second aspect of the outward appearance of a clown, and that is makeup. In makeup, remember not to overdo anything, not too many colors and not too many symbols. You also want your colors to coordinate with the outfits that you've already chosen for your character. Secondly, you want your symbols to coordinate also. Your symbols should represent either your personality of your clown or something else, like your Christianity. I've asked a friend to help me today show you how to put on a clown face. His name is Danny Espinoza, and he's going to demonstrate this for us right now. Danny? Say hello to everybody.
Well, hello.
Great. The first thing that Danny is going to do is he's going to sketch out his clown face on a sheet of paper. You can buy sheets of paper that already have a blank face on them, or you could draw your own. You want to make sure that you sketch everything you're going to draw on your face, including the color. If you're going to have big lips, draw them around the lip line. Draw on a nose if you're going to add a nose or if you're going to put color there. On the eyebrows, you'll want to add your own style of eyebrows. You may need to white out your own. The most important thing is that you put the color down just exactly how you want it. As Danny is completing to fill in his face, let's look at his clown kit and see what he has in it. The clown kit is very important for the clown. You can use a tackle box, an overnight case, or even a makeup kit to make your own clown kit. Inside, you'll want everything you need to do your makeup, your costume, and any other tricks you might be doing. Am I going to get in your way? Okay. The first thing you'll need is something to pull your hair back with. Lots of people will use a cap and just turn it backwards. You might also want to use a rubber band or a headband of some sort. You might also need a brush to brush your hair back with. Secondly, you'll need some things to clean your face off, because whenever we start makeup, you have to have an absolutely clean face. Some type of astringent would be good. You might need a washcloth to use to wash your face, or even some medicated pads. The next thing that you're going to need is some lotion, because you're going to put lotion on your face before you actually start doing your makeup. Also, you're going to need some sponges to apply your white face makeup with, which you'll need some white face makeup. You'll also need some cotton swabs to take off your makeup or to apply your astringent. The next thing you'll need is a powder sock. These can be very easily made. You can either use a knee-high nylon or an old sock. Preferably cotton or wool will work best. You simply put some baby powder in the bottom of it, and then as you pat it, you can see it leaves the film on your face. Also, you might want an old shirt of some sort, preferably a button-down that you could put on while you're applying your makeup so that you don't get it on your costume. If you have a costume that comes up around your neck, you're definitely going to want to have a shirt like this. If you don't, if your costume buttons down the front or down the back, you could just wear an old t-shirt or an old smock like this, take it off, and then put your costume on afterwards. Other things that you probably need in the bottom of your case is some extra baby powder in case your sock runs out, and some baby oil or cooking oil to remove your makeup with. Now we're going to talk about the rest of the kit, what he has on the top side. On this side, you're going to have individual sponges that you can use. You might also have some soap that you can wash your face off with beforehand, some small Q-tips that you can fill in color with, and your colored pencils. Depending on the type of clown you are, you may have several colored pencils. You can use eyeliner pencils, which work wonderful, or you can buy a small grease pencil. The main thing that you want to remember is that you're going to need a lot of black eyeliner pencils, because everything you draw on your face will be outlined in black. So always have plenty of those on hand. Also, it's always wise to have a pencil sharpener, just in case any of your pencils break. On the top, he also has a nylon in case he needs to make a new sock. He has his rubber nose, or a foam nose like this one. And he's also got some eyeshadows, in case you're doing a lady clown character and you would want to add lighter colors on her face. Now let's look at what he's drawn for his face. You can see that he's put the classic red lips on, and it's already started with a white background. He filled them all the way in red, and he started at the base of the lip line. Now let's have Danny begin applying his makeup. The first thing he's going to do is cover up his costume by putting on an old shirt or a smock of some sort. Then he's going to pull the hair back from his face line. He'll be using a ball cap, turned around backwards to do that. The next thing that you want to do is check out the contours in your face. Look at how your hair is lined. Open your eyes up wide. Make different facial expressions to see the wrinkles and lines that your face forms. These are very important when you start actually applying the makeup. Remember that you're always going to begin with a clean face. Danny's already washed his face and he's at the point of applying his lotion. This will make sure that it fills in all of the pores in his face and that his makeup applies evenly. If for any reason your face still feels greasy after you've applied your lotion, you can take a dry washcloth or a dry towel and pat your face off to remove any of the excess grease. Now Danny is going to outline the major block areas of color on his face, which would be the black around the lip line, and it will also be the black around the eyebrows. The reason that you outline first is so that you can place the white on the outside of these major black colors, and also so that if you have to make any revisions, you can do it before you start applying your makeup. Notice how Danny again raises his eyebrows, opens his mouth, and tries other facial expressions to see how the lines change when he does this. Now he's ready to start applying his white face makeup. To apply the white grease paint, you're going to use a sponge, and you're going to make sure that it's slightly damp. It's best if you can work in a restroom of some sort where you have a mirror and also where you have a water supply. If not, make sure that you have your own mirror and you have a small cup or some type of water there. Notice how Danny uses his sponge to blot the makeup onto his face rather than streaking it. This helps to get an even color all over his face. Also, the whole time he continues to use his water to moisten his sponge. This also helps to create the even look. When doing the eye, remember to close your eyes. If you do not have thick eyebrows, you might want to take the makeup right over the top of the eyebrows. Another option is to create a circle around your face and then fill in the white, instead of taking the white all the way to the hairline and the chin line. After your white face is even, you're ready to powder it. To powder your face, you're going to close your eyes, and then gently use the sock or the nylon to press the powder onto your face. Make sure you go over every area where you put the paint on. After you powder your face, you're ready to begin adding color. To do this, you use your pencils and fill in the areas which you've already outlined. If your color is not even, you can use a Q-tip and lightly dampen the end and then smooth out the color until the whole spot is even. Next, Danny is going to outline the colored areas with a solid black line. If you do not have a steady hand, you might want to ask a friend to do this for you. Now Danny is ready for the finishing touch, his nose. He's going to be using a foam nose that has a slit in it. All he has to do is pinch it and slip it over the end of his nose. It fits perfectly. You can also use a rubber nose and attach it with spirit gum, which can get quite messy at times. Or you can use a rubber nose that clamps onto your nose, just like this one does, or a rubber nose that has a rubber band that goes all the way around the back of your head. If you don't like any of these ideas, you can always just paint your old nose up the way you like it to look. Now Danny is going to go and finish getting into the rest of his costume. As he does, I wanted to tell you just a few other tips about applying your makeup. First of all, if you have any facial hair, like a beard or a mustache, or even thick eyebrows for ladies and men, you might want to incorporate them into your character. Like Danny did, he did not white over the top of his eyebrows and then draw new ones on. Instead, he used them and blackened them in and made the high arches. That's an excellent idea. Other things you might have are things like glasses. If you want to incorporate those into your character also, it's great. You could be an old granny character or a hobo and then wear your glasses at the same time. The last and the most important thing about applying your makeup is make sure that you do it in a private place where no one else can see you. You never want your audience to see you putting on your makeup or getting into character. And remember, once you've got your makeup on, you are now that clown character, and you should never act like yourself again. Never let anyone see you out of character once you have your makeup or your costume on. Now we're going to show you a few of the characters that we do and give you some ideas of clowns that you can do also. People always want to know how to tie or twist animal balloons. Right now I'm going to show you some very easy tricks that I'm sure you can learn. But before we start, let me tell you about the type of balloon that you should buy. First of all, there are two different kinds, one 160 or two 280s. The two 280s are longer and thicker in diameter. Both of these types of balloons can be purchased at a magic novelty store or at a balloon shop. Secondly, you'll need a pump if you're not able to blow up the balloon. The type that I would recommend is a basic sport pump, like that you would use to pump up a basketball. You can also purchase pumps that are made especially for balloons. They're smaller or larger in size. Let's look at the first trick. As I go through these tricks, I'll be explaining some tips that will make it easier for you to tie balloons. First of all, I'm going to show you how to make a hat balloon that you could wear or give to a child to wear. Whenever you're tying balloons, make sure that you allow the audience to see the twist that you're making, because that's what fascinates them. So never put your hand over the top as you twist the balloon, but on the underneath side. Secondly, whenever you twist balloons, you want to pinch the balloon slightly so that it pushes the air to the end of the balloon where we've allowed extra space. Which is the third thing. You're always going to allow extra space, which we call a tail, at the end of the balloon. Depending on how much you're going to pinch the balloons or how many segments you're going to put it into, the longer tail you're going to need. Usually about 4 or 5 inches is adequate. For this trick, you're going to pinch all 3 balloons together, just like this. Then you're going to twist this section. You're going to take the ends of the balloons and do the same thing. Twist all 3 sections and twist. Then you have a hat that a small child could wear on their head. Now let's learn how to tie a sword balloon. This is also great because it can double as a sword or as a cross, and it's very easy. Once again, there's only one twist. You're going to start at the end of the balloon where you tied it off. And you can see that I did not have to leave much tail because I only have one twist to make. Put your hand around the balloon and make sure that you have enough room to grip it. Then you're going to twist back over the top of your hand, grab those 2 sections, and twist back again one more time and grab the 3rd section. When you've done that, find the middle of the sections, gently squeeze, and twist. And that's it. You have a sword. Or, if you're telling a Bible story, you can also have a cross. The next trick that we're going to learn is how to tie a dog balloon. Now this is great because if you lengthen any part of it, you can turn it into other animals. And I encourage you to experiment as you do this. The first thing you're going to do for the dog is pinch off a small section so that it makes a round ball. Whenever you're tying balloons and you're holding many sections, if I let go, it's going to pop back. So I'm going to hold both sides of it, the small ball with my 2 fingers and the rest of it with my hand. The next thing I'm going to do is make 2 sections for the ear, still holding on to the small ball and the next 2 sections. So now I have 3 sections. I'm going to take the top 2 sections, move those together, and twist to create the ears. Now we're ready to move on to the neck. When you're tying a balloon, make sure that you always twist the sections in the same direction. That causes them to grip together so that they don't come apart when you let go. The next section we're going to do is the neck, and you can decide how thick or how long you want this neck. Then we'll do the legs just as we did the 2 ears by creating 2 small sections and then twisting those 2 sections together. Now you're going to come down quite a long ways or short, depending on how long you want the body of your dog to be. I'm going to make this a hot dog, so I'm going to come down a long ways. Twist, and once again, twist off 2 small sections like you did for the front legs to make the back legs. Then you're going to twist those 2 sections together. And there you have your dog. If you want to, you can add a ball to the end of the dog's tail, or you can lengthen the neck or the body. That's how it can become other things. The other thing I encourage you to do is keep a permanent marker on hand. Then you can always add facial expressions to your animals. Like that. The other reason why I suggest that you keep a permanent marker on hand is so that you could write a scripture reference on your balloon. Remember, this is a tangible item that the child can take home with them. So think of verses that express God's love or tell the child how they can become saved. Then later on, when they're playing with this balloon item at home or just looking at it, they will be encouraged to look these verses up in the Bible and discover God for themselves. Right now we have one last trick to learn. This one's a little bit more difficult than the others we have learned, but I think it's very important. I'm going to show you how to make Christ on the cross. Just as I have said before, these are tangible items that the children can take home and remember the lesson you have taught them. That's why it's so important that you learn how to do this trick. To do this trick, you want to make sure that you leave plenty of tail on the end of your balloon because there's several twists. The first twist that we're going to begin with is the head. To do this, pinch off a small section that's round at the tip of your balloon. The next thing you're going to do is make the arm. Go back about 2 times that length onto the body of the balloon, pinch and twist again. Next, we'll make the hand. Still holding the front 2 sections, pinch off a small section that's round, about the size of the head, to become the hand. Here's the difficult part. You're going to twist the hand to itself. Just like that. The next section you're going to do is the back end of the cross. Come back about the same length as you did for the arm, maybe just a little bit more, and twist off. Once again, twist off a section for a hand. And twist that hand section together. Now you're ready to add the second arm of Christ. Come back about the same length as you did before, pinch and twist. Then take this first section that you started with and pull it around to form his head. You have the head, the 2 arms, the hands, and the back end of the cross. Now we're ready to add the body, the legs, and the stem of the cross. For the body, come down a section just slightly larger than the head, pinch and twist. For the legs, you're going to make the legs just like you did on the dog animal. 2 sections, pull them together and twist. For the tip of the cross, you're going to take what you have left over and push it up through the triangle. When you're finished, you should have a figure that looks like this, or Christ on the cross. Now let me give you some tips about tying balloons. If you're having problems with your balloons popping, there might be several reasons why. First of all, make sure that you always leave enough room at the end of your balloon, in the tail. If you find that you get to the end of your balloon and there's not enough room, it will probably pop. Secondly, never store your balloons near someplace cold or someplace hot. This also causes them to pop. Instead, I suggest that you put them in a Ziploc bag in a medium temperatured place and place some baby powder in there. The reason why balloons pop is because the friction of the balloon next to the balloon causes them to pop. It's also what causes them to stay in place. If you have some baby powder or talcum powder in the bag, it's going to cut down on the friction. Another reason that your balloons might be popping is because of your fingernails or hangnails. Make sure that if you're a lady, you've kept your fingernails trimmed nicely and close. And make sure that you've removed any hangnails on your hand. Also, you might want to put some lotion on your hands to prevent popping. But most importantly, never act like you're afraid of the balloon popping when you're tying it. Children are afraid just because of the sound, but it's not going to hurt you. Instead, talk to the child. This will help the time to go faster as you're tying the balloon. It will also help you to feel more comfortable. And it's the whole purpose of tying balloons. When you're tying these balloons, you have a captivated audience, and you want to tell them or share with them about the Lord Jesus Christ. I encourage you to practice tying your balloons as much as possible. The more you practice, the easier it's going to become, and the quicker you'll be able to tie them. Also, I encourage you to experiment. Try to make up your own animals, or experiment with the ones you already know how to do. The more you do this, the more comfortable you will be with your own ability to tie balloons, and the easier it will be for you to share the Lord Jesus Christ with others. Now let's talk about paper tricks. Paper tricks are wonderful for witnessing. Because most children learn by utilizing more than one sense, this is the perfect way to teach them about the gospel of Jesus Christ. All you do is fold some paper, then cut it at different angles, and you come out with something that they can see. While you're telling them about the gospel, you can also be showing them about the gospel. Paper tricks are very easy to learn and to use. Better than that, they're efficient and convenient. All you need is some paper, scissors, and marking instruments. Let me show you what one of these tricks looks like. I'll be using my personal testimony as I do this trick. I had a friend in high school. His name was David. David and I were nothing alike at all. We came from two opposite ends of the world. I was a cheerleader, and he wasn't. I was also involved in academics, but David was only involved in a drug scene at our school. Through a chain of events, we got to know each other pretty well. I was in several of his classes, and he was not doing very well, so I began to tutor him. Actually, we got to be pretty good friends. After a while, I found out everything that David was involved with. I also found out that I could be a friend to him like no one else could, because I had the love of Jesus Christ in my life. But there was a problem. David took other drugs that some people don't. It's a drug called heroin. Heroin is very hard on people's bodies because they pump it directly into their blood. If they pump just a little bit too much, then they could die. This is what happened to David. He was pronounced dead when his mom and dad found him in the basement. They rushed him to the hospital. When I heard about it, I went to visit him. And I asked him, why would you use a drug like heroin that could kill you? And he told me he just wanted to be happy. That's when I had the opportunity to share with David that Christ died on a cross for him, and that's what could give him eternal happiness. That day, David accepted Jesus Christ as his personal Lord and Savior right there in the hospital room. These paper tricks are wonderful ways to share your personal testimony or that of a friend. If you don't have a testimony that would fit with this paper trick, use this opportunity to talk about why people take drugs and why they should have Jesus Christ in their life. Let me show you how to do this trick. All you need is a sheet of paper and some scissors. The first thing you're going to do is fold your paper down about 2/3 of the way, widthwise. Make sure you get a nice even crease. Next, you're going to fold up from the bottom till there's about 1 centimeter in between your last fold and the fold you're making right now. Looks like this. Then you're going to fold it lengthwise, in half. Each time, make sure you press the crease nicely, so it looks more like a book. Now we're going to do what's called an airplane fold. If you've ever made paper airplanes before, you've done this. And every time we have a cross in a paper trick, it's going to have an airplane fold in it somewhere. Simply take the corner in, put it on the middle creased line, and then crease it. Fold the next corner in so the two corners match, and crease the outside line again. Looks like this. Now you're ready to begin cutting. Fold it back together like you had it when it was a book, and I'll show you the cuts. Sometimes it's best when you start to draw out exactly where you want to cut. I'll show you how to do that. Once you practice it, you will not need to draw out these lines. First, you're going to hold it up to the light so you can see where the two folds separate. You're going to go about 1 centimeter outside the crease, halfway up the bottom section, and draw a line. Next, draw a line out about 1 inch. Then you can put your paper back down. Next, you're going to draw a line from this outside line all the way to the top of the edge of the paper. Just like that. Next, you're going to draw a triangle. Do not connect it with the line you just drew off the edge of the paper. And do not connect it with the tip, but try to come as close as you can. If you connect it with this line or with the tip, the top end of your cross will fall off. Now we're ready to cut through these lines. As you open it up, the first time you open it up, you can pull the back lap up, and it looks like a hypodermic needle. When you're ready to unfold it to make the cross, simply push that part back down and open up the back side. And there you have your cross. Now let's learn another trick. For this trick, you will need a marker. Today we're going to talk about our heart. You know, our heart can be filled with all kinds of things. Some people fill their heart up with good things, But some people fill their heart up with bad things. You know, there are people who take drugs, like cocaine. They not only fill up their heart with cocaine, but they fill up their whole body with it also. There are other people who are very ashamed of some things they've done, and their heart fills up with shame. There are other people who might even steal or lie to get what they want. They fill their lives and their heart up with crime. All of these things are called sin. But you know what? There are other kinds of sin, like the sin of lust or the sin of hatred. And pretty soon, your heart is filled up with all of these bad things. But you know what? That's the wonderful thing about Jesus Christ. When we ask Christ to come into our heart, he takes all of the bad things we've done and he wipes them clean, all away. The Bible tells us that if we will confess our sins and call upon the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that we will be saved. And once we are saved, our heart is no longer full of the horrible things we've done. All that we can see in our heart now is Christ on the cross. In this trick, you want to talk about your heart. I usually ask the people who are watching to give me things that you could put in your heart that would make your heart dirty or bad. If they give you things that will not fit with the letters Christ down the middle, then you want to put them on the outside of the heart. I'll show you why as we learn this trick. The first thing you're going to do is take your piece of paper and fold it lengthwise in half. This is just to help you to know where the center of the paper is, because down the center of the paper you're going to write Christ. After you've done that, draw a heart on your paper. Make sure you leave about 3 inches at the top of your paper and then start your heart. The next thing you're going to do is fill in words that would have Christ written down the center. You might want to start doing this trick with the words already filled in and just talk about them. But the most important thing is to make sure that Christ is written down the crease of your paper. You can see how that is right there. The words that I filled in were cocaine, shame, crime, sin, lust, and hate. But take, for instance, that a child gave you the word envy or stealing. You could write these words on the outside of the heart. Just like that. The next thing you're going to do is fold your paper to make the cross. First, fold the top part of the paper down until it almost hits the C of Christ. Then crease it. Next, you're going to make the airplane fold because we're making a cross, which means you take the outside corner, place it on the center crease, and then crease the edge. Do the same for the other side. Next, you're going to fold it in half, just like a book. Now you're ready to cut. You should be able to see the letters C-H-R-I-S-T down the middle of your fold. You're going to want to cut right on the outside of those letters. You cut from the bottom all the way up to the top, going through every layer of fold and off the end. If you make your cut too wide, you'll find that you have other letters on your cross besides Christ. The last thing you do is open up your folded paper, and you have Christ on the cross. Now we're ready to learn the next trick. This trick is a hypothetical story about two boys who are in high school. They're just coming home from a ball game. They're driving along when all of a sudden they're hit by a drunk driver. Instantly, both boys are killed. And now they're on their way to heaven. Well, one boy, he pulls out a ticket out of his pocket, and he starts to open it up. His ticket is labeled heaven. Well, the next boy looks around and feels his pockets, but he doesn't have a ticket. So he asked him, "Where'd you get that ticket?" And his friend said, "Oh, my Sunday school teacher gave it to me when I asked Jesus into my heart." Well, the one who was not saved asked him if he could have maybe a little piece of your ticket, because I don't have anything. So he thought about it, and he decided, well, I guess something is better than nothing. And he cut off a piece of his ticket and gave it to him. Well, now the boy looked at his ticket and the Christian's ticket, and he thought, mine doesn't look very big. Do you think I could have a little bit more of your ticket? I mean, I've done a lot of bad things in my life. So the Christian cut off a little more of his ticket and gave it to the other boy. Well, it still didn't look like very much, so we asked him one more time for a little bit of his ticket. And the last time, the Christian cut off a little bit more of his ticket. By this time, they were just entering the pearly gates, and at the gate stood the ticket taker. She asked him if he could see his ticket. Well, the Christian gave her his ticket, and she unfolded it, and she found a cross. She said, "Oh, yes, we're waiting for you. Go on in. They'll be expecting you." Well, then she asked the other boy to see his ticket. When she saw the pieces, she was kind of puzzled. So she began to unfold them and see what they said. When she was finished unfolding his ticket, it spelled out the word hell. And she had to say, "I'm sorry. We didn't know you were coming. You'll have to exit over there." This is an excellent story to demonstrate why people need to accept the Lord now when they have a chance. If you're telling this story to a small group of children or a small group of adults, make sure that you lay the letters out on the floor around you or on a table where everyone can see. If you have a large audience, I suggest that you use an overhead and you place them on the overhead as well as the cross on the overhead so that everyone can see them. Let me show you how to do this trick. You'll just need paper and scissors. First, you're going to fold down widthwise about 2 inches from the top of your paper and crease it. Next, you're going to fold it in half. Once again, crease it, and now we're ready to make the paper airplane fold. Fold the corner in to the middle line and crease the outside. Do the same thing with the opposite side. Fold the corner in and crease the outside. Now you're going to fold it like a book. Make sure all of your creases are nice and straight. The next thing you're going to do is start from the bottom and work your way up. Simply fold up to where the diagonal line meets the lateral line, and then crease it. Then you're going to fold up once again the same width. Crease the bottom and do that one more time. Fold it up again the same width and crease the bottom. Now you have your ticket that you can show the audience. Next, you're going to make 3 cuts in the ticket. If you want to, you can start with the ticket already folded and have your lines marked off for the cuts. The most important cut is the cut that makes the cross. It's going to go up this section right here where you have a small diagonal triangle. Go halfway through the triangle, straight up to the other end of the paper. This section that I have my finger on is the section that makes the cross. The other sections begin right here where the diagonal meets the line, and then halfway in between the remaining portion. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections and 3 lines that you'll cut on. Now you can cut the paper. If you'll start from your right, you'll be cutting off the pieces that the unsaved person holds that spell out hell. You should be left with the cross in your hand. And then all you need to do is open it up to reveal what his ticket said. Just like that. On these pieces, if you'll start with the first section that you cut off, you'll find the 2 bars that make the H. Lay those out flat. The next 2 sections look like L's, but they are really the top and the bottom of the E. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together. The last section has 2 shorter bars that go on the H and the E, and it has 2 larger L's for the end of your word. Once you put it all out, you have hell spelled out, and you're ready to ask them if they would like to accept Jesus Christ as their Savior. Our last trick today would be used in a church setting. This is for kids who already have Jesus Christ as their Savior, but they don't really know why they go to church. It's the paper airplane story. It's about a little boy named Sam. Now, Sam went to church all the time, but he didn't really know why he went to church. He thought he went to church so he could meet his friends, because he had lots of friends at church. He thought he went to church because he got these great coloring papers. He thought he went to church because his Sunday school teacher always had donuts in the classroom. But the most important reason why he thought he went to church was to make paper airplanes out of the Sunday morning bulletin. Now, he would sit in the back row of church and make these paper airplanes. He got so good at it that he didn't just call them regular paper airplanes. He called them supersonic jet airplanes. And there he was in the back row of church, and he would take his paper airplane and fly it all the way up to the front row until it hit the little girl with the curly pigtails. But it still wasn't good enough for him. That's when he learned how to make it into a jet. So he turned his supersonic airplane into a supersonic jet airplane. Now he could sit in the back row and not only hit the girl on the front row, but he could hit the lady that was playing the piano. But it still wasn't good enough. So he added some passenger seats to his airplane. Now he sat on the back row, and whenever the song leader came forward, he would aim right for his mouth and land it. But it still wasn't good enough. This time, he wanted to make it into a needle-nose, supersonic jet airplane with a passenger seat. And now he could sit on the back row of the church and aim it for the pastor. Now, he was just getting ready to do this when guess who saw him? His mother. She grabbed him up by the ear and she said, "What are you doing with that paper airplane? You're not supposed to be doing that in church." and she sat him down and stuffed the paper airplane in her purse. Well, that was the first time that Sam actually listened to the pastor, and he realized for the first time in his life that he doesn't come to church to meet his friends or to make paper airplanes. The reason that we come to church is to learn about God and to worship his Son, Jesus Christ. Kids who have gone to church for a long time or all their life, they love this story because they've probably been caught making paper airplanes too, and because of the beautiful church you end up with. Let me show you how to do it. All you need is paper and scissors for this trick. You begin once again by folding down the top of your paper about 2 inches and creasing it. Next, you're going to fold your paper in half lengthwise and crease the fold. Then once again, you're going to make the paper airplane fold by folding one corner in and creasing the outside. Fold the next corner in to the middle till they touch and crease the outside. On this particular paper airplane, there's a couple more folds. You're going to do an accordion fold. Fold it back so that you have about 1 inch, and then fold it one more time so that you have 2 creases laying on top of each other, like an accordion. Do the same thing to the other side. Fold your corner back, and then back one more time so there's 2 folds laying on top of each other. And it looks like this. Since you are making a paper airplane this time, you fold it together like a book and then fold down 2 wings. Simply take the piece you just fold it all the way back and crease it. Flip it over and do the same thing to the opposite side. Now you're ready to begin cutting. The first cut looks like a candy cane cut and makes the door of the airplane. If you'd like to draw it on, it'll be easier for you to remember. You're going to go on the center fold and cut just like a candy cane. Looks like this. When you cut this out, the airplane looks like a jet, as you can see. If you were to open it up, you'd see how that makes the door for the church. The next cut that you make is the passenger seat or the windows of the church. You're going to cut that on the 2 folds of the wings. Depending on the size of the windows that you want, you can make a small square box that will go across both folds. When you cut this out and you hold the folds together, it looks like a small passenger seat. But if you open it up, you can see how it makes the windows of the church. The last cut that you make is the needle nose. It's very easy. Simply pinch the wings back together so you have this look, and you're going to cut a straight line up through all the thickness. Make it only about 1 centimeter wide. The wider you get, the bigger your cross is going to be on the top of your church. After you feel your pencil or your scissors go through the thickness of the folds, then begin to angle it out till it meets where the diagonal point touches the line. It looks like this. When you hold this like a plane, it looks like a needle-nose jet. But when you open it up, then you see the church. Because of the folds, this church should be able to stand by itself. That's all the tricks that I have to show you right now. But I want to remind you, if you're using these tricks overseas and you're working with an interpreter, make sure that you practice your tricks with the interpreter several times. It would be better if the interpreter could just tell the story as you fold and the children or the people in the audience watch you. Another thing to remember is that this is excellent for any place you could be. You can always stick scissors or paper in your pockets, and you have a ready-made illustration to use. Object lessons are physical things that we use to illustrate a point. They can be anything from magical illusions to games, simulations, or just objects that we bring in for a show and tell time. The reason that we use object lessons is because most people learn better when they incorporate more than one sense. And that's what we want them to do. Remember what we're trying to teach them. Jesus Christ was the master of object lessons and parables. He used what we call the teachable moment. This means that he used things around him to illustrate his points and to teach others. Remember the time he pulled the coin from the fish's mouth? And then he gave a whole lesson on paying your taxes. This is how we should be. When we're giving an object lesson, it should seem spontaneous, even if we already had it planned. And it should apply to the person's life. Right now, I'm going to show you a few object lessons that are simple, that I'm sure you can do and others will love. The first one that I'm going to show you is the 3 ropes trick. This one is about lying. Sometimes we start off a lie just by a little exaggeration of the truth. And then maybe we say that we give a white lie, and it's much longer than the truth. Or then maybe a real lie. People seem to classify lies, but in God's eyes, every lie is just the same. There's no classifying, and every lie is a sin. That's why when you lie, you need to ask God to forgive you, because to him, sin is sin, no matter what we think it looks like. This is the way this trick works. You can see it right there. I've looped 2 ends together, and it's very simply done. First of all, you want to start with 3 pieces of rope. 1 long, 1 medium, and then 1 short piece. The most important thing is to make sure that your medium piece and your short piece, if they were added together, would equal your long piece. Because you're going to loop the short piece with the long piece to create what looks like 1 length of the medium piece. And this is how you do it in your hands. Start off with the short piece, placing it in your hands and your fingers toward the audience. Then you'll place the long piece next to it. And finally, the medium piece on the outside. Then, as you're talking or illustrating your point, pull up the short piece around 1 end of the long piece. Then you pull up the end of the long piece and the other end of the long piece together. You can see that's where I began to loop. At this point, the trick is already done. You just need to finish it off. Take both of these ends, place them underneath another finger, take the other medium end, place it underneath that finger also. Then you're ready to pull the ropes. When you do, you'll have them all the same length. As you pull the ropes, you'll want to slide your hand down to cover up where you have them looped. Then you can only see the ends, which all look the same. This trick can be used to illustrate how God looks at our outward appearances, and he doesn't care whether we're short, skinny, fat, tall, have curly hair, or straight hair. It can also be showed how God looks at sins, not just lying, how every sin is considered a sin, and it ruins our heart, but God can wash them all away. Let me show you another rope trick. For this one, you'll also need a block of wood. I'm going to talk about lying again. You know what? Sometimes we start off by just telling one lie. But then pretty soon, we have to tell another lie to cover up for the first lie that we told. And pretty soon, someone else hears about that, and we have to tell another lie to cover up for that lie. And all of a sudden, our lies have trapped us. We can't get out of the stories that we've been telling. In Proverbs, it tells us that a wicked man is trapped by his own sinful desires and deeds, just like this heart is trapped by the lies that I've told. Now, if I ask Jesus Christ to forgive me, he will. And once again, he breaks the chains of my sin and sets my heart free. Now let me show you how to do this trick. This is a wonderful trick because you can have several objects that you use to show how sin binds our life up. For this trick, all you need is a wooden object with a hole through the center of it. You could buy this object at a magic novelty store, or you might just buy a wooden object at a craft store and drill your own hole. Also, you'll need one piece of medium or long length rope. To start, you're going to loop the rope and stick the looped end through the hole. Then you pull it out the other side. Next, you're going to take the long end of your rope, wrap it around the front side of your object so it looks like it's being tied up. Make a small loop and stick it through the other loop, just like that, to create a slip knot. Next, you'll pull the remaining end of the rope, which pulls the knot through the hole. When you've done this, it will look like your object is tied up. But then when you pull on the two ends of the rope, the slip knot removes itself and the object will pop off. Now let's show you another trick. This trick is called the magic picture. In this picture, I have a story about a family who is going to church. But there's someone missing in this family. We see a son, a daughter, a mother, but there's no father going to church with this family. But when God comes into people's lives, he can change their hearts. And in my story, he changed the heart of the father and brought him back to church. This made the whole family happy, and we can see how color re-entered their life. This is a very simple object lesson, and you can use it with lots of different pictures. I'll show you how to make your own, or you can purchase these at a magic novelty store. First of all, what you need is a picture. It's probably best, if you're not an artist, that you just copy a picture out of a coloring book. You'll want to make a transparency of that picture, just like this. The transparency will be without color or without an object if you want to make an object appear. Then you'll also make another copy of the picture with color, just like this. The point is, it will slip around a blank sheet of white paper, which creates the illusion that color or objects are appearing. To make your frame, you can take an old picture frame just like this. You would want to bind it on 3 sides. I have mine open so that you can see how it's made. Inside, you'll place 1 sheet of white paper. Probably you would want for it to be thicker than regular typing paper so that you can't see color through it. Tape the paper along the bottom edge so that a picture could slide over the top or the sides of it. Let me show you how to do this one more time. This time I'll be using the American flag and adding color to it. For this lesson, I may just want to ask the children what colors are in the American flag, or other questions. As I do, I can remove the picture, and they'll magically see the colors appear. You could use this for lots of other things, and I'm sure you can think of them on your own. But think about possibly a heart without Jesus Christ in it, and then have Jesus Christ appear in the middle. Or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. Then you can have the angel appear with them when you pull the picture out. Remember that object lessons don't always need to be illusions or magical tricks. You can find an object lesson right inside your own kitchen or nature. Let me show you one of these. For this trick, I'm going to talk about choices that we make. These jars will represent our lives, and the spoon with the white powder in them will represent a choice that we're making. Sometimes we see that someone else has something better than us, and it makes us feel very angry inside. But we might begin to covet that so much that we might even want to harm that person or steal what they have. This is called envy or jealousy. When we make a choice to allow that feeling to enter our heart, it turns us green with envy, just like this jar. Sometimes we might make another type of choice. Someone may hurt us or hurt our feelings. We can decide to ignore this and forgive them, or we could decide to get upset and angry. So mad that we blow up, or bubble over, or lose control. These are two types of choices that we should avoid. This trick is very easily done. All you need are jars, like this, or a clear container that they can see through. Next, you'll need some spoons. The powder that I placed inside the spoon was baking soda, because when it absorbs in water, it becomes clear and you cannot see it. For the first jar, when I had it turn a color, all I did was simply place some food coloring in the spoon before I put the baking soda on top of it. That way you could not see the food coloring, and once I started to stir it into the jar, it turned the water green. For the second trick, I started with a little bit of vinegar in my jar also, just about 1/4 cup. And as everyone knows, when baking soda is added to vinegar, it causes a chemical reaction and it bubbles over the edge. This is a wonderful illustration. You can smell it and see it, and you can hear about it. Let me show you one more thing. This may not seem like an object lesson, but remember, it doesn't have to be a magic trick. It doesn't have to be something from your kitchen. It just needs to illustrate your point. For the last object lesson, I have two types of crosses. The first type was used during the Passover. It represents the crossbar that is on the door and where they placed the blood. It also represents the way we used to have to come to God through sacrifice. It was very difficult, but Jesus Christ simplified the process, and you can see it right here. He gave us this type of cross that he died on, and his blood is now our sacrifice. You can see that it's much simpler than the old way we used to have to come to God. I encourage you to find your own illustrations for your lessons. You can use magic tricks, you can use things in your own kitchen, or from your backyard, or from nature. If you're looking for other ideas, try to find object lesson books or books about magic tricks. But remember that lessons will always be better if it has an object lesson of some sort. This helps the person to remember what you're trying to teach them. And that's our whole purpose of teaching others about Jesus Christ.